Thank you, sir. Sir, Mr. Speaker, as I make my contribution to Budget 2022, firstly, I would like to wish each and everyone a Happy New Year and lots of prosperity. Secondly, I would like to congratulate the West Indies team for winning the Betway series. They have played well and as a team, despite a few hiccups. Sir, I have 3 words for former speaker. Tourism is dead. I've listened to her speech, Mr. Speaker, and every single thing that comes out, all the vision and policy is about the AP and UAFC 2015 manifesto. So I want to thank you very much to adopt those policies and guidelines that you guys are not seeing. Sir, they are visionless about what they are about to do in 2022. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. Sir, the honorable member mentioned about the tax regime from the private sector, that we overtax them and we are pressuring the private sector. But sir, it was the PPPC government that put on 16% VAT on the private sector. It was their government, sir. Mr. Speaker, we are happy that the government is recognizing the policy and the rigid policy that the AP and UAFC government have in its 2015 manifesto. But as I continue, sir, Budget 2022 is no different from the others. It is just that the total budget has been increased. We have seen in Budget 2020 our plan for prosperity and Budget 2021 a path to recovery. But we have never seen this impact, sir. We have seen billions of dollars spent within our economy, but yet cries of the poor are endless. And guess who gets the blame? Mr. Flooding and Mr. COVID-19. But our budgetary allocation keep increasing, this time by 44.3%. Mr. Speaker, I've just read a statement by the private sector that say that this budget is a balanced one. But I want to tell the private sector that if the people don't have the money in their pockets, it's their business that will suffer. Sir, if you look at the governance framework in Guyana, it can be considered very weak and fastly approaching a tipping point towards collapse. We have seen, sir, that there is a continued absence of dialogue and engagement between government and opposition. High level of dysfunction and distrust within the National Assembly. Suppression of freedom of speech with government critics being arrested under the Cybercrime Act of 2018. A heightened sense of Big Brother, as police action have become overly aggressive and intolerant in recent times. Reference is made to the killing of Mr. Owen Boston in Esquibo. Public procurement rules are being subverted and twisted to ensure that certain companies receive major contracts with little or no track records. Sir, the honorable member just mentioned about corruption. But I want to tell her, sir, that 18 months and the PPPC is yet, the PPC, the Public Procurement Commission is yet to establish itself. 18 months. And you know what happens during a period of time? Billions of dollars have been expended to contractors, persons who are not qualified on contracts. Sir, we have seen the refusal of government to entertain and listen to alternative views. Most recent example is the passable of the Natural Resources Fund Act against the cries and demands of thousands of people. The 2022 budget has seen the PPP enjoying the Natural Resources Fund as many feared it will do. Nothing is left for generational savings, and these planned withdrawals go against the Santiago principle, which set out guidelines for how sovereign wealth fund should be managed. Mr. Speaker, we have seen during this past 18 months that the Guyana economy was managed very poorly, and as a result, we have seen drastic decline in major sector. The gold has declined by 14.8%, rice by 16.1%, sugar by 34.7%, and many others that my colleagues will mention as they come along. But thanks to the AP and UFC government that brought the petroleum sector on board in 2015, 2016, that sought to have rescued this economy for 2022. We have seen most of the major non-oil sector has declined. The health sector, where the COVID-19 virus is spiraling out of control, but yet, sir, the APNU AFC is getting the blame. And if you look at all the speeches, sir, you will see that 50% of the writing and awards is APNU AFC. Thank you for the promotion. Sir, if I turn your attention to forestry, I'm happy that the Honorable Senior Minister of Finance within the Office of President spoke about the sustainability of forestry, the forestry sector that tries to keep the deforestation rate below 0.05. He also mentioned in his budget speech that 137 million United States dollars were left in the GRIF fund, untouched, that came from the Norwegian. I want to remind the Honorable Minister, sir, that it was the forestry sector operators that contributed to the low rate of deforestation by practicing sustainable forest management, SFM. It was the very forestry sector operators that was affected by the devastating flooding. It was the very forestry sector that was severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, I'm asking, sir, how much of that money from the GRIF fund was given to the forestry sector operators for losses they have incurred? There are proposals that is sitting within the project management office waiting for approval, sir. Was anything ever given to the operators? And to add, sir, now that it has established that the forestry sector is a major contributor to the economy, it would be beneficial for the populace to know that the forestry operators have not received anything, sir. They have written to the government for duty-free fuel, spare parts, duty-free for double cab 4x4 pickups that can save to be travel on the interior roads. Nothing, sir. Mr. Speaker, the GFC and all those involved in the forestry needs improved technology, less cost access to money, increased training to access foreign markets, the creation of downstream forest products, and other forms of assistance to manage the forest resources. Even better than we are doing right now, sir. The entire sector that has worked so hard to get us current low deforestation rate get no funds directly. And we are calling, sir, for a revolving fund that will be a public-private partnership. This will make a big difference to all of us, and especially the community loggers who have toughest time in needed credit. Sir, we have seen billions of dollars pump into the sugar industry that continues to fail. Why can't the forestry sector have a $2 billion? Just a fraction of that was given to Gaisuku. We have seen, sir, that even the gold sector has declined, as I mentioned before, due to the bad interior roads, the same roads that affect the forestry operators. I must tell you, sir, currently, trucks are refusing to go to Isano, the location where thousands of cubic meters are left there. You cannot have trucks going there, sir. They are refusing because of bad roads. It must note, sir, every year we are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on interior roads. Recommendations were made again as to the design and materials to be used on those roads that can be easily drained, but nothing happened, sir. I know, sir, that the drain were for a very long haul, but proper planning with good timing can avoid many of these road issues. Additionally, sir, in our time in GGMC, we're on top of its game to ensure that contractors who had a yearly maintenance contract do its job. Sir, permit me to talk about the the National Forest Inventory. 250 million Guyana dollars, as mentioned by the Honorable Senior Minister, Dr. Ashni Singh. Sir, this was supposed to be beneficial for the forestry stakeholder in that it would have reduced the cost of doing 100% forestry inventory that is borne by the forestry operators. So if we look at an estimate of all the large concessions that need to inventorize the forestry, those inventory blocks over about approximately 300, that will cost them $120 million. That is just, and the $250 million that is being used to do the National Forest Inventory that is less beneficial to the stakeholder we could have done 2 years of 100% forest inventory that would be beneficial for the forest operators and the government, whereby they will use the same data to extrapolate the rate of deforestation and also the commercial species that is within that specified area. So if we look at the log export policy, Mr. Speaker, in 2018, the AP and UFC government amendments were made to the log export policy to have third-party license to export logs that was mentioned by the Honorable Dr. Singh, that sees the volume of lesser used species increased. Sir, I must acknowledge the Honorable Vikram Bharat for implementing that amended log export policy that sees the forestry sector now starting to recover, and hoping that the recommendation I made above, made here, are taken on board. So if we turn our attention to agriculture, sir, the Honorable Minister spoke about the callous shutdown of sugar estate by the AP and UAFC. But I must remind him, sir, that it was the PVP that shut down Diamond, LBI, and Wales that was on a verge to collapse. I remember, sir, when Mr. Sharma visited that estate during the workers' protest, that he was thrown on the police truck and taken away just because he was reporting the truth and facts about that sugar estate. Least we forget, sir, least we forget. What he fails to tell the citizen of Guyana, that those estates that they promised to reopen will never happen. We have heard the government plans to set up a factory in Enmore estate that will employ hundreds of workers, but we're boasting in this very house that they will reopen the sugar estate. Same goes to the Outer Lake Rosal. The Vice President stated that there's no timeline, sir, when this sugar estate will open. We have seen over $26 billion already pumped into this industry and still struggles to reach its target. We have seen now that the target is reduced to probably that what they can manage. But I would like to add, sir, that let the public know that when the AP and the AFC spoke about the right sizing of the sugar industry, this very government said that we want to close the sugar industry down. But I'm happy to see today, sir, that they now realize what we are saying. The AP and the AFC government did an extensive study before it could have made that decision, including calculations, include consultation with GAO. The next speaker can attest to this, sir. Sir, I have listened to the government lecturing and justifying of the $6 billion that has been allocated in this budget that will benefiting directly and indirectly, benefiting thousands of and tens of thousands of families. Sir, this right here is the proof of the government intention and objective of holding on to Gaisuku because of its support base. I rest my case. Sir, if I can turn your attention to the Natural Resources Fund. Once it seemed that they're having a lot of attention lately. Mr. Speaker, the NRF Act, the repeal of this act is an act of treachery to our current and future generation. Only in 2019, the AP and EFC has enacted this bill and made it into law in the laws of Guyana that oversees the management and accountability of the Petroleum Fund by the Guyanese people. The principle set out in this 2019 Act was one that established a principle of good governance. Sir, when you repeal an act that is of 2 years old to suit a new political regime, it is called a betrayal. It is either the country is bankrupt due to heavy spending beyond its capacity, or where the government needs the money to cushion a huge deficit. And we have seen this, sir, where the current regime came here twice for subsidiary budgets. They miscalculate 2021 budget by 15%, a sum over $49 billion plus. Sir, this country is plunging further and further into debt. Will take decades to recover if we ever recover. All these are signs, signals for what will happen to the Petroleum Fund if we have one set of persons directing the disbursement. The amendments to the current 2019 Act is heavy politicized. Sir, with all this to be said, sir, the resource course and how to overcome it. Because we have entered, sir, in the fourth stage of the resource course that many economics and all persons, all experts in the world spoke about. Mr. Speaker, sir, I recall the government in its first call to repeal this bill state that too many powers lies in the hands of the finance minister. But the word minister refers to a minister of government, a minister of government that is in power. What is important here, sir, is the removal of the oversight committee that the AP and UFC installed in 2019 in the Natural Resources Fund Act. Under Part 3 that states under the Article 5.1, there's established a committee to be known as the Public Accountability and Oversight Committee. This committee comprises of government, opposition, civil society, religious organization, youth groups, women groups, community organization, the Bar Association, and we have put in what we call local democracy, sir, something that the PPP government don't know much about. By installing representative...
Okay, I don't know if you know about this. You're allocated 50 minutes, which has just expired, and you can get 5 minutes as an extension.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that 5 minutes be given to the...
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, you can proceed to conclude. You have 5 minutes more.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, as I was saying, that we have put representatives from all 10 natural regions of Guyana. We have had the media and accounting body of this committee, sir. The AP and UFC government had a very diverse representation of the Guyanese people to overlook the Natural Resources Fund. With the absence of this body, sir, while putting the power in three-man committee that I referred to at the beginning will take us down a path of no recovery. If you look just over the western border, Venezuela, sir, you will see what the resource course has done to that country. It creates humanitarian crisis where Venezuelans are fleeing the country because of hyperinflation rages, because basic health care and food distribution failed. The country has become a haven for transnational criminals, and the government has become implicated in humanitarian abuses as it puts down demonstration. All these, sir, is because of the resource course and the imposition of policies and resources of nationalism. One set of people controlling the fund, Guyana will be no exception to this, sir. Mr. Speaker, all of these can be avoided if we use similar models like the Norway that has grown from the poorest to the wealthiest by investing in global growth. They have invested in 73 countries around the world, invested in 9,123 companies in those countries, and have 4 additional investment areas within countries. On equities, bond, real estate, and infrastructure. They call it the pension fund. But what we are doing, sir, here in Guyana, is to privatize everything where the monies will only go to a few. Norway has put its people and country first over politics. Similarly, Qatar and UAE has done the same. Putting the people first, we are putting friends and family first, sir. This resource course is not a prophecy, sir. It is a warning to Guyana. We can overcome this through foresighted investment and smart policy. We can use this newfound wealth to build a secure and stable future for its people. Our oil wealth could make the country into a model for the rest of the Caribbean and South America, as stated by known economists. Not those economists that has paid what we call intellectual mercenaries to say that our natural resources bill are transparent. Finally, sir, if I can turn your attention to region number 4. Sir, I must put on records there is no consultation done or recommendations from the councillors from the opposition side in the preparation of budget 2022. And it must be noted this region is being governed by the opposition. This is a deliberate attempt to control this region and ignore the will of the people. Local democracy is dead, sir. We have seen that the 5 million government subvention was removed from under the RDC and placed directly under the Ministry of Local Government, where the NDCs are now being given a hard time to access this. Directed by the ministry where to spend the monies. Mr. Speaker, there are 17 NDCs in Region 4, and out of these 3, Cane Grove, Haruni, and Lamaha are being given $450,000 to help with administrative work. If you are speaking about one Guyana, democracy, and equitable distribution of resources, why only these 3 local organs are giving special treatment? Drainage is the region, and this region under the APNFC was done by local personnel, where monies will be circulating within the communities from 2020 to 2022. This had been replaced by machinery with very high costs, almost triple, sir, almost triple, and now being cleaned twice yearly. Hence, you can understand the reasons for flooding. In conclusion, sir, for us to have one Guyana, we must work together, distributing the resources equally and stop discriminating our people. Takam and Duam are 2 different things, sir. I thank you very much, sir.